Welcome back to our second episode of the Launch Your Farm Show. In this episode, I interview Beth Samberg from Keller Williams in Philadelphia. Now, we had a few glitches with the connection, but I promise you're really going to like this episode. So Beth and I jump into some great topics and ideas that you can actually implement into your business. Some of the things we talk about is how do you answer your phone and how that could bring you thousands of dollars in business by doing that correctly. We talk about why letting your friends and family and past clients know that you sell real estate is critical to your success. We talk about how planning your business around your life is super important and how you can do that as well. We also talk about how getting involved in the community can pay you back and more than just feeling good, and a ton of other topics. So I know you're going to like this episode, so be sure to check out the whole thing. And when you're done, make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, check out our Facebook page, and check out our other social media accounts. And be sure to share this with any agents that you know that would really enjoy this episode. So here it is, my interview with Beth Samberg. All right, you're joining us on Launch Your Farm. So we got a great guest today, Beth Samberg. So Beth, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself and why you're here?
Sure. My name is Beth Samberg. I am a realtor down in the Philadelphia area. I am a single mother with 4 children, aged from now 9 through 16. I've been selling real estate since my oldest daughter, who's 14, since I was pregnant with her. So I've been doing this for about 15 years now. And that's really it.
Awesome. So what kind of got you into real estate then?
So I myself was working for the University of Pennsylvania. I was working for their city and regional planning department and looking for my second home, like for our personal home, for an upgrade.
Yep.
And at that point, my realtor at the time said to me, "You'd be great at this. You should really be selling residential real estate." And that's kind of how it all started. So I went back, I got my license. I was literally pregnant with my second. And when I was about 6-7 months pregnant with my oldest daughter, I walked into an office and I said, "I want to sell real estate." So they hired me, and 15 years later, a couple of brokerages later, here I am.
You're still here.
Yeah.
You've made it past the 5-year mark. That's always the hard one.
I did. I got past the danger zone.
Right. So since we're talking about farming, why don't you tell us kind of how you started your farming, what that looked like, and a bit about what farming looks like for you then?
Sure. So when I started in this business, like I said, I was pregnant with my second. I had a 1-year-old at home. I now have 4. So I've had 3 children since I've been doing this. And initially when I started, I was always hiring babysitters every single time I needed to show a home. So I never wanted to drive more than 15 minutes away. So
Yep.
Anybody who wasn't within a 15-minute radius of my home, I referred out to another agent. And really my business started with only being in a very specific area of where I live. And then as time has gone on and as my kids have gotten a little bit older and they've gone to school and I've had more time, my business has expanded to include a lot more territory. And as I've brought on agents on my team, we've expanded territory. But initially it was really more necessity than it was a planned thinking.
Okay.
It was just, I don't want to pay a babysitter for a home that I probably won't sell and be on the road for 30 minutes in each direction before I even get to the house. So it really kind of started just because the kids were little and that's what I needed to do.
Yeah, so it was almost forced farming because just from lifestyle purposes, you obviously you wanted to do what was best for you and make sense.
Yep. And I was always really, and it also was that I was always really involved with my community and where I live with community service and taking the kids to mommy and me classes and being active in things, sporting events, things like that. So the people I were meeting were living in my neighborhood also. And so those became my clients. It was mostly my business was almost 100% sphere based the first 5 years.
Wow. So yeah, because some people get into farming, I find it's either a strategy where they get into it, someone tells them they should do this area, and not a lot of people do it just because they need to work the areas to stay home, stay close. What did that look like for you compared to the way other people have farmed? Because some people literally come up with a business plan, have a whole strategy in place when they're doing farming. Like, what was it like for you when you were was it strictly, hey, I'm going to do it close to home? And I've
had a business coach for a long time. It just wasn't something that I did because it wasn't something I wanted to manage or that I had time for, or that I even thought I knew what it meant or what you could do with it.
So at what point did you realize you were actually farming? Right? Like how far into it? And you're like, hey, this is called geographic farming.
I think the first time you and I had a conversation a couple of years ago, I don't know that I ever knew that to call it farming, to be honest with you. It wasn't, I can look back on my pre-licensing classes, and I remember there was a conversation about farming, but it was really more of a conversation that was about Megan's Law and whether or not we needed to disclose that there was a sexual predator living in the neighborhood who had registered a sexual offender. And they were like, well, if you sell to a sex offender, you don't have to necessarily disclose that, whatever, and things like that. And somebody said, yeah, but if you do, you might not want to farm that neighborhood. So I can look back on that now.
Yeah.
And oh, now I get it. In that moment, I didn't get it at all. It wasn't something I realized I was doing. It was just where I was. I was just being me.
I find my experience has been that a lot of agents either have an idea of what they think farming is or don't know what farming is at all. And they don't realize that some of the stuff they are doing is the basis of a geographic farm, but maybe not as polished as it could be, but they're doing what they're doing. And they may not know that you could really enhance that and grow it. And I know for yourself, you've now taken what you've learned from those beginning things and have kind of expanded. So what does it look like for you from that first few years and what you did to now expanding your team and growing it? Like, how did you apply that?
So right now we actually have a neighborhood that we're specifically farming, which actually is not the neighborhood that I specifically live in. It's about 7 minutes from me. It's another town. And I ended up with about 5 sales in a very short period of time in this little neighborhood. And I have 7 more coming on within the next 3 months, or that we just put on. And so we've now actually started farming that area because it makes sense to do that. So it's a combination of postcards. Pre-COVID, it was some door knocking. It was making sure people came out to our open houses. It was doing things for the neighborhood beyond just selling homes. We would do a collection for a food bank door to door. So we would do food bank challenges, things like that. So we would get involved with planting trees in the local playgrounds and parks. So anything that we could do in those neighborhoods, I very much view myself as a community service advocate who happens to sell real estate, as opposed to a realtor who does some community service. So it's just continually looking for opportunities to help those communities. And when you're helping those communities, you meet people, and that's how your business builds.
And I'm a firm believer in that. And I think the days of old school farming, of just sending out postcards or just door knocking the neighborhood, can it work? Yes, but it's not going to be as effective. And the people who are truly mastering their farms and truly taking market share are really putting the community first. And like you said, you happen to sell real estate. People want to know that you care about the community and you're giving back to the community and you're helping either grow the community or help keep the community together.
Yep. And it's a lot of face to face.
Yeah.
If I meet somebody, I am who I am, and they've probably never met anybody quite like me. And so it just surprises them, I think, and I take them a little off guard, and then it builds into a relationship. I genuinely love people. So when I meet people, my personal friends group in my sphere is very, very diverse and all over the place. And I think people are sometimes surprised by that, and so they welcome me into their lives. And once somebody's in my life, it's hard for them to get out of my life, whether they want that or not. So, because I have a very large circle and I hold them pretty close.
Yeah, which is great. And then that people know you genuinely care. They get that you're not just there to try to get a deal out of them, and that you're not just transactional. So my question is, because we get that a lot, where people will say, okay, I'm doing a lot of community-based, but how do I actually turn that into transactions? Because some people are out there and they're volunteering, they're getting involved, but they suck at actually getting business from it.
Well,
how do you do that?
That's the part of making sure everybody knows that Beth Samberg sells real estate. That's where that comes in, is just dropping it in, or talking about what you do for a living. I love what I do.
Yeah.
I love the hunt. So it comes up in conversation a lot. I was on a text thread that I'll read you, that somebody said, this was literally 2 minutes ago. And somebody said, a friend texted 5 of us and said, I'm thinking I'm going to rent the house, whatever. And then somebody said, is Beth your agent? I'd call her if not. And somebody said, agree. Beth is the best and the only one that would sell me a house. She's the only agent I'll ever talk to. And then somebody else said, I couldn't, agree more. And then I just wrote, laugh out loud, I like this text thread. So a lot of it is just that people do a lot of the work for me because I've done a good job making sure everybody knows what I do. And it doesn't end with the contract. It's a lifelong relationship. And, COVID was a good example of that. I couldn't be near anybody. We couldn't leave our homes. We couldn't talk to anybody. But every single person in my database got a phone call because I wanted to check in and make sure they didn't need anything. Even people who weren't my clients, I was okay going to the grocery store. Do you need me to pick something up for you? What do you need? It's, I volunteer for an organization now. A lot of people who are now finally going back and getting their elective surgeries done,
Yep.
who don't maybe have local family, who are elderly. So I pick up these elderly people who haven't seen anybody in 3 months.
Yep.
I make sure they have a mask. I make sure I have my mask. I put them in my car. I drive them to the testing center. I watch them as they, in my car, literally, stick a Q-tip up to their brain, and just drive them home. So, I'm just meeting a lot of people who live in the neighborhood who I never would have interacted with because they don't have kids my age. And otherwise I would never know them. But those are the kinds of things that you do when you want to be part of a community.
And like you said, those people become your brand ambassadors. They're the ones who are doing the selling for you. And I've always said it's a lot easier to have someone else introduce you than try to introduce yourself. Not that you can't. Right. When you're dating, I always said it's having someone else introduce you to someone is the best way to be introduced. If I walk up to a girl and say, "Hi, I'm Ryan," they get lost creep. But if someone else says, "Oh, you should meet my friend Ryan," it's a lot easier to have that introduction. And it's the same with real estate. When you have someone else doing that, and in this industry, we know that a referral is a lot better from someone that you know than a cold internet lead. So when you can have those people doing the selling for you, and that's where that relationship stuff comes in, where when you're building those relationships, you're not building real estate transactions, you're building the relationships, genuine relationships that will then turn into transactions.
Correct. The transaction, I work with a lot of friends, a lot of my deals are with people I know, and I'm very clear that their friendship is more important than their business. Yep. And if the business relationship isn't working, that their friendship matters to me. And I don't want to be in the grocery store and have to scoot down the different aisles. I don't want to see them. And that if it's not working, my contracts are such that we can terminate them because I want to stay friends with them. Yeah. And not every client's right for every agent, and not every agent's right for every client. Everybody has to recognize that, and it's not personal. Yeah.
And I find not everyone has to be as involved as you are, but there are some simple things that people can do to really just take that from complete transactional to relationship more. And I've seen so many agents that are completely transactional who are missing out on so much more business, and then they're spending a lot more money and time trying to find new clients. And it's like, if you just put that time and energy into the existing people you have or the relationships you have, it would go a lot farther than the stuff that you're doing, or most likely.
And it would cost a lot less than what they're spending to get those leads too.
Yeah. And a warm referral is a lot easier to convert. And generally speaking, I find half of the objections are handled when you have a referral. Like you're not having to have the same objections versus someone who's completely cold.
Correct.
Off the street.
Correct. Yep. I come in with a resume that's already been told to them. I don't have to toot my own horn. Somebody else has already done that for me.
So going back to the team then and growing that, how much of the team structure is, or like how involved are you in the farm and with your team? Are they doing their own thing? Are they doing their own branding, or is it about you, or like how does it look?
It's a combination. So I have always allowed my team members to kind of brand themselves how they want to. And, we support them in that. It's not an ego thing for me. I don't need my name on it. It's about getting everybody the success that they want to get to. And the truth is, I wish my name wasn't on the sign. I would much prefer to have their name on the sign because I don't need my name everywhere. Although I love it when I meet somebody new and they say, "Oh, are you Beth Samberg, the realtor?" To me, that's a win because I've done my job, right? I've made sure that people know that I'm a realtor. So that's nice. And that's probably a byproduct of my name being on signs. But I'm happy to allow my team members to have their own signs and their own name. And I want to see them succeed. The goal is never for them to be on my team forever as an agent on my team. The goal is to grow them so they can go off and, hit their own goals.
So knowing what you know now, knowing that you know more about farms, what would you do differently if you were going back and starting over, if anything?
I don't know that I'd do anything differently, to be honest with you. I really like where my business has gone. And I really like the way that it started, because it started in a way that it was so personal that it's almost become my fifth child. So my business has grown as I have grown personally, as my children have grown. And so I don't know that I would do it differently for the situation that I was in. So what I was saying is, I think that if I didn't have kids, I think I would probably do it differently. I would
Right.
be much more door knocking and being at more things that I'm currently at, and making sure that I'm really good about the people I meet, actually moving them into a database and then tracking how I'm keeping in touch with them, things like that. Time's never been my friend. I've got a lot going on. I'm a single mom with 4 kids. I've done this business while I've had them and raised them, and
Yeah.
and recently homeschooling them, so that has become, I don't know that I would do it differently though in the same situation, because I got to really be with my kids and raise my kids and stay home with the kids and fill in as I needed to. So I don't think I'd do it differently. I might have made certain hires sooner
Right.
and leveraged that kind of stuff out sooner than I did. I didn't make my first hire until I'd been in the business for 8 years. And that was a big revelation for me, that somebody else could put a lockbox on a door or could schedule the photographer, those things that don't need my hand in them. That's been real nice to have that taken off my plate.
Yeah.
I probably would have done that sooner if I could have, in hindsight.
Yeah, I find too that a lot of people will say that because I have kids that they can't do things. And I know for yourself, you've not used your children, but you've leveraged
Absolutely.
school. You leverage those things. Like what have you done by incorporating your children into your life for your business? Like, how does that look? So if someone's struggling, saying I got kids, how do I do it?
So my now 14-year-old, when she was little, she was 2 years old, and I used to take her with me to Brokers Opens on Tuesday. And I'll never forget that once we were about to leave the house, she said, "Oh, wait, Mommy, I forgot my purse." And she ran back into the house and got her little, toy purse. And when we got to the house, we walked into one of the first homes, and she turned to me and she said, "Ooh, quiet, Mommy, it's a work call." And she opened up her purse and took out one of my old cell phones and walked through the house, talking about the house.
Yeah.
And it occurred to me that they're watching what I do. And they're very much watching how I behave, and they're listening to my phone calls. And so, I've always also signed up for things. I kind of have built my business as we've lived our life.
Yeah.
So I used to pick up a lot of business at gym classes or ballet classes or, swimming lessons or whatever. I'd be sitting there, my kids would be busy. I'd strike up a conversation with another mom sitting next to me. I've used those opportunities. My very first listing came from somebody I met on a playground.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was just because the kids were playing, and I said, "Hey, come here often." It was really, though, that's how I got my first listing. I was at the park with my 2 little ones. One of the buyer's agents, one of my buyer's agents on my team right now, I met her. She's been on my team for about 1.5 years, but I initially met her 13 years ago, literally on a playground with the 2 kids, and they just moved here from Maine. That's where I met her. I met her on a playground. I've kept in touch with her, and 1.5 years ago, she got her license and joined my team.
Yeah.
So it's just building relationships and being good to people and keeping them in your life, because you never know necessarily when they're going to fall back into your world either.
Yeah, I find a lot of people I've heard agents say, if I didn't have kids, my business would be so much better. I could do so much. And I've always said, like, no matter where you're at, there's opportunities. For me, I don't have kids, but there's opportunity that I'm missing because I don't have kids. I know here, I don't know where you guys are, but locally, we've got a lot of like moms groups on Facebook. Mm-hmm. And I know some agents who just crush it in the moms groups. And it's like, I kind of wish I was a mom that I could have and use the mom group. And there's another friend of mine who's part of like a fempreneur group. And it's like, you got to work with where you're at, the relationships you have, and utilize that and make the most out of it, because no one's going to have the perfect setup of what works for them. And so you got to develop your business around that. And you're a perfect example of that, is building it around the lifestyle you wanted, building around your family, and still having a successful business.
Right. And I talk to a lot of agents about how to do that and how to use other things in their life to kind of build their sphere. Yep. So I teach across the country, for Keller Williams. And so I teach a class called How to Lead Generate Without Picking Up the Telephone. And every single class, somebody raises their hand and says, "Well, I used to do this, so how do I do that?" And so we will, I'll talk to them. Like there was a woman who said, I used to be a cosmetologist. So how do I convert that piece of my business into real estate? And I said, well, go out and get branded emery boards, nail files.
Yeah.
And that's what you're now handing out to your cosmetology clients, right? You're giving them nail files. It's just something with your name on it that just says realtor, realtor, realtor.
Yeah.
I talked to somebody who he has season tickets to one of the professional baseball teams. And I was like, well, everybody should have a baseball cap and your whole section should be wearing your realtor baseball cap, or everybody should have a beer cozy or something that you're handing out to everybody sitting near you, because this is your sphere. Yeah. These are people you're seeing on a regular basis. So tie whatever it is in your life that you're doing into real estate, because that's what's so nice about real estate is that there are clients for everyone. Not every agent is right for every client. So you got to find the people who match with you.
And that's what I love about geographic farming, or any type of farming, is that you can layer in so many different things. If you're doing one strategy, if you're doing just FSBOs, if you're just doing expireds, or if you're doing just open houses, you're limited on the strategies you can implement, versus when you do farming or using your own life and putting it into it, the sky's the limit on things you can do that really compound it and layer onto each other and really have a great effect.
Yep.
So speaking of strategies, I always like to share with our audience, like, what can someone take away? Like, what's something actionable that you could share that you've done that worked for you that people could take away from right now and add to their business?
Make sure everybody knows you're a realtor. No secret agents. That, I don't think there's anything stronger you can do than just consistently making sure people know that you're available and what you can do. And when your phone rings, answer it. Right? It's simple, not easy.
Yeah.
Right? And it's so true, because if somebody doesn't know you're selling real estate, then that's on you. That's not anybody else. We both see in all these Facebook groups, people are like, oh, my best friend bought with somebody else. My cousin just, my boyfriend just bought a house using. Right. It's really important that you make, that's your responsibility as the realtor to make sure they know what you're doing.
So there's agents who are terrified to do that, and they're afraid that they're going to be overpowering or overbearing, or people are be annoyed. What's a simple script or simple approach that someone who may be afraid to, who may not be as outgoing, could actually go out and let people know that they're in real estate?
When the phone rings, no matter who it is, say, "Ooh, this is my buyer, this is my seller," and walk away and take the call. I mean, it's really that simple. On Facebook, I have my, what I do, realtor listed in my description of who I am.
Yeah.
It's little things like that. It's sponsoring the school play. It's sponsoring the parade. It's putting a $25 ad into an ad journal. It's just getting your name out and making sure people know who you are.
Yeah. And that's when the more people know who you are, and the more likely you're going to do business. And then the more people who know who you are, that the ideal type of client you want to work with, the better it's going to be. So when you figure that out, whether it's geographic, whether it's, like you said, if it's in mom's group, or if it's schools, or if it's whatever, however you want to get those people to know, the more you can get your message in front of those people, that's how you're going to get more business by.
And I think part of it is also, don't be afraid to guilt your friends a little bit. Like we had dinner, my boyfriend and I had dinner Sunday night with two sets of friends, two couples who both have bought homes with me. One of them bought her home, her and her husband bought their home, and another one just recently, through COVID, sold their home and both bought their home. And both of them thought I did a great job. I did do a great job. And neither of them have left me reviews on Zillow or Realtor or on Google or on Facebook, whatever. And they were both saying, they're like, you're the best. And oh my God, you got me the house for so little. And the house was never on the market. And you sold my house for $40,000 over ask. And I was like, you assholes, go put that on Facebook, please. Like, what are you doing? I mean, but being able to say that, right? And being honest with your friends, like, this is what I need. I need you to tell other people, not just me, how great I am. I already know how great I am, right? Like, confidence is my strength. So I don't need you to tell me how great I am. You can tell my mom, she loves hearing it all day long, but I need you to tell other people, because that's how you grow a business.
Yeah. So that's a perfect way to wrap up the show, is now I can guilt you into making sure that you leave a review for the show, and that you're going to tell people about the show. So
I proved
can't
that
deny
on
it
your
now.
last show, didn't I?
It's true.
That's why I got to come back on 5 years later.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you being on the show, and it's great. And again, after interviewing you 5 years ago, I knew I wanted to have you on because I know how important that was for you when it comes to farming, and how different your approach has been, because you, like I said, you knew it wasn't about farming for you. It was just about being close to home, and how much of an impact that had on you and your business. And it's awesome to see that, and to see what's come out of your business by doing that from the beginning, by staying focused. It's just awesome to see your business grow to that level.
Yeah, it's good. I'm not complaining. I like that I don't have 100,000 miles on my car, even though it's 7 years old. So, yeah.
I will appreciate you being on the show. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for checking out today's episode. If you'd like more videos like this, be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check out our Facebook page and our other social media channels. Looking forward to bringing you more great content like this, and happy farming.